Namaste, my dear friends. Referring to you now, accounts and records. Being a taxpayer who obtained the registration under the GST law should maintain accounts and records under section 35 of the CGST in his principal place of business. Now one should understand what do you mean by principal place of business. Generally, the person who obtained the certificate of registration where he is very clearly mentioned, my principal place of business is Chennai, my principal place of business is Mumbai, where he operates his operations, being a supplier of the goods, being a supplier of the services, as the case may be. Suppose if I initially obtained certificate of registration by showing the principal place of business is in Chennai, tomorrow if I going to be open a new branch at another place in the same state, let us say in the state of Tamil Nadu, in addition to the Chennai, I am going to open one more business in one more city of the Tamil Nadu. In that case, let us say in Coimbatore, I am going to open a new branch. In that case, it is a additional place of business. I should maintain the books of accounts not only in the principal place of business but also at additional place of business, the operations which are taking place in the respective additional place of business, that accounts I should maintain in that particular additional place of business. In that case, I supposed to be informed to the department by way of amending the certificate of registration form GST REG 06, which is a core field amendment where the department officer will verify and satisfy and he will provide to you, okay, granted, go ahead with additional place of business. It is one of the core amendment in the certificate of registration, core field amendment we called. Now, a person being a registered person in GST law who is supposed to maintain the books of accounts at his principal place of business and every additional place of business. As per section 35, what accounts, records the registered person should maintain. In the given case, I will say, my dear sir, in the given case, you should supposed to maintain as per section 35, subsection 1, the following accounts and records under the CGST Act. Any registered person must maintain production and manufacture of goods. Production of what? Production of chocolates, production of biscuits, production of the soft drinks is a production. Manufacturing of vehicles, manufacturing of laptops, manufacturing of cell phones. The person who is a registered person in GST law who produce the goods or who manufacture the goods should maintain accounts and records with regard to production of that goods or manufacturing of that goods. Production generally in relation to the goods which directly can be consumed by the human being, like chocolates, biscuits, drinks, we used to call it as production. Manufacturing means the human being can be used indirectly, like laptop, cell phone or vehicles, one can able to use indirectly. In that case, the manufacturing of goods which may be by way of production or by way of manufacture, the person who registered GST law should maintain that accounts of the production of the goods, manufacturing of that goods. In addition to that, inwards and outward supply of goods or service are both. What raw material received, what components are received to manufacture the goods, what ingredients are received to produce the goods, I should maintain. And what is my output supply, how much I supplied out of my inward supply, how much I supplied, balance how much is left over in the organization, should maintain the accounts and records for that. In addition to that, the manufacturer or registered person or a trader or a person who is service provider should maintain stock of goods. What do you mean by stock of goods? Stock of goods nothing but the inward supply of goods, opening balance and consumed during the supply of goods and services, the balance left over as a closing stock. Simple to say, in a case where, my dear sir, I am the service provider I received some components to provide my output supply of services. If so, components, how much I received, how much components opening balance is there, thereafter, how much I consumed to provide my output supply of services for the given period, balance consumables, how much left over as a closing stock, such a data should be maintained as a stock of accounts, otherwise stock of goods, or otherwise a trader who purchased the goods and selling the goods, opening balance plus purchases, leftover closing balance after supply of the goods should details maintained, or otherwise a manufacturer who produces the finished goods, a production of goods produced by a supplier should maintain the stock of goods records. And moreover, while maintaining the stock of goods, you should also be maintained if any goods have been given as a free of cost, goods has been given as a gift, or any goods has been lost during production process, that data should be maintained when you maintain the stock of goods. You must maintain the stock of goods in the case of a registered person. You may be a trader, you may be a manufacturer, you may be a service provider. Some of them will feel for a service provider what type of goods will be there. For example, I am a housekeeping supplier service. For me, I have broomstick to purchase. Thereafter, I have the stick to mop the areas, or otherwise to clean that particular places. I have to purchase the Harpix, I have to purchase the Lysol. These are all my consumables. Even for service provider who provide output supply services, he also should maintain stock of goods. Further, ITC availed by me. What do you mean by this? ITC, input tax credit, how much I availed, what is the opening balance is there if anything, or the purchase during the month, what are the input goods, what rate wise, 5%, 12%, 18%, 20%, the goods which I purchased, the inputs which I received is not a blocked credit. If blocked credit, I should not avail the ITC. If not a blocked credit, I can avail the ITC by satisfying the conditions as laid down under section 16, 17, 18 of the CGST Act, which we are already aware of that. Further, my dear friends, output tax paid or payable such other particulars as may be prescribed. In the given case, if you refer output tax paid by me or my outward supplies, my supplies on which forward charge applies, the details of the tax what I paid are payable by me. Further, such other particulars as may be prescribed by the department, I have to maintain it. Further, my dear sir, here other particulars as may be prescribed meaning what? Other particulars as may be prescribed means, see, if I wanted to pay the GST, I should issue the tax invoice, and the tax invoice I should be shown in the GST 1 return. And moreover, if I am going to pay the GST on my issue of debit note, I issue a debit note where my debit note is my liability, that document should be maintained, is the meaning of that. Further, my dear friends, referring to you here, the points. Any registered person to be maintain additional records. Already we came to know, in the given case, we came to know that any registered person should maintain the production and manufacturing of goods, inward outward supply of goods, stock of goods, ITC availed, output tax, payable, paid, or such other particulars as we prescribed, generally maintain. In addition to this, a registered person should also maintain the additional records. What do you mean by additional records? Import or export of goods taken place, that data should be provided. Import or export of services taken place, that data should be maintained. Separate register should be maintained for which? Import or export of goods or services. Supply of goods, supply of services on which RCM applies. That means my supplies, recipient liable to pay, or otherwise supplies by somebody else to me where I am liable to pay GST. That means even my supply, RCM apply, or I received the goods or services where a recipient liable to pay GST. That means two way. I supply the goods or services, my recipient liable to pay GST. Or otherwise, I purchase the goods, I receive the goods where the recipient being I am liable to pay GST. Such liabilities, if any, separate records should be maintained for that. Tax invoice should be maintained. tax invoice register should be maintained. Bill of supply, as you are aware of that, bill of supply is a supply where the tax is not shown separately, where the bill of supply is supposed to be issued by whom? Composition taxpayers, or the taxpayers who are not liable to pay the tax. In that case, we called as bill of supply, which is supply not apply GST in the invoice. Further, delivery challans absolutely required in the case where supply of goods, where there is a, for reasons other than the supply, especially in my defense, principle supplying the goods to the job worker, where the delivery challan speaks very important role. In that case, e-way bill also be required to be maintained if the value of goods exceed rupees 50,000. In the case of job work, irrespective of the value of the goods, the job work, when the goods sent on job work, the principal should issue the e-way bill in addition to the delivery challan, where the value of goods immaterial, even 10 rupees worth of the goods supplied. For example, I am telling you, by principal to the job worker at interstate level, then what is required? Delivery challan required. Thereafter, the e-way bill also required, irrespective of the value of the goods. The other documents should be maintained by the principal in the case where the goods sent by the principal to the job worker at interstate level. Further, credit note, debit notes were very important, crucial roles it plays. If I supply the goods as a supplier, my sales, my buyer for him purchases. If he return that goods, for the buyer purchase returns, for the seller sales returns, for the sales he paid the GST seller. Sales returning place, in that case not required to pay the GST. Then in that case, seller will issue credit note. In that case, credit note of the seller is a credit to the seller. In the GSTR 3B, he can avail the ITC. So like that, a debit note, credit note, wherever required, should be maintained, and it should be properly serial order, monthly should be kept in the organization, where in the principal place of business, or in addition to that, if we have additional place of business, at every additional place of business, I should maintain these records. What are they? Tax invoice, bill of supply, delivery challan, e-way bills wherever required, credit note, debit note, receipt voucher. You have read that. What do you mean by receipt voucher? What she said? Receipt voucher is nothing but where the payment received in advance, invoice not issued. In that case, issue the receipt voucher. Payment voucher. What do you mean by payment voucher? If the recipient is liable to pay GST under the RCM, he made the payment in the time of supply. Payment voucher. For the recipient point of view, for supplier point of view, a recipient voucher where the recipient received advance payment. That means the supplier received the advance payment, which is for which no time of supply taken place, or invoice not issued cases, issue the receipt voucher. Same way the payment voucher, where the recipient liable to pay tax, where he made the payment to supplier in advance, issue the payment voucher. Further, refund voucher. For example, when I receive the payment in advance, I issue the receipt voucher. Thereafter, before supply takes place, the supply got cancelled. In that case, I should issue the refund voucher. These other documents should maintain by the registered person in his principal place of business, as well as if he has additional place of business where the transaction took place in the nature of advance payment received and all, should maintain this particular receipt voucher, payment voucher, refund voucher in the additional place of business also. That means to say that the transaction took place at principal place of business, maintain the records at principal place of business. If the transaction took place at additional place of business, maintain those transactions for which documentary evidences at additional place of business. Like that, separate accounts for advance received, advance payment, and adjustment made thereto. Further, names, addresses, to whom supplied taken place, from whom supply has been received. A detailed record should be maintained, namely buyer registered, creditor registered should be maintained. Further, complete address of premises where the goods are stored. That is very, very important. When the goods are stored at a place other than the principal place of business, other than the additional place of business, the details of that particular address of the goods where you have been stored should be clearly maintained, and proper location should be also that particular where you have been kept your goods at a place other than the place of business should be informed to department by maintaining the records in your side. In that case, my dear friends, a case where a practical issue will be like this, where a particular person buying and selling of cell phones. He purchased the cell phones of 10,000 cell phones, but in his premises there is no space availability. Therefore, he approached a warehouse keeper to warehouse the goods. Warehouse keeper safeguard the goods. In that case, who is the owner of the goods? The owner of the goods is the person who purchased the goods in warehouse, but warehouse keeper is not the owner. However, if the warehouse keeper of the goods not in a position to establish the ownership of the others, then the warehouse keeper itself will be deemed owner of the goods. I will put in the given case. In the given case, what is the mention here means, if the taxable goods are found to be stored at a place other than declared place without the cover of any valid documentary evidence, in that case the stock liable to pay GST. I will create a scenario here for a easy understanding purpose. Sir, I am Mr. Pushpa. You get my point? I am Mr. Pushpa, not the flower. Fire. Now, what I will do here is, I purchase 1 lakh cell phones. 1 lakh cell phones I purchased by paying the cash, not through bank. And that goods has been kept at a place where the place of that particular premises belongs to my one of friend. I told him, you please safeguard the goods quite for some time. I will take care later on. The goods has been stored in my friend place where there is no documentary evidence. Thereafter, department came to the premises of my friend and verified the documents where there is no document supporting the storage of that 1 lakh pieces of cell phones. Then they asked, hey mister, whose goods it is? He said, my friend, it is belongs to Pushpa. He is somewhere else. Call him. Where is he? He is not available. Absconded. By the time he noticed that, he escaped to other country. Understand? In that case, the department is in a position to identify the liability of that goods. It will be treated as a supply of the goods. Hey, mister, you are the owner of the goods. Though the goods belongs to your friend, but your friend not available. The goods are found in your premises without any documentary evidences, liable for tax. Further, my dear friends, supplier maintain stock of goods and details of the stock. What do you mean this? How to understand this? As I told you earlier, sometimes before, stock of goods, opening balance, raw material wise, finished goods wise, followed by purchases during the tax period, less supplies during the tax period, balance closing stock, tax wise, 5% goods, 12% GST goods, 18% GST goods, 28% GST goods, are the goods apply nil rate of GST. So these are the detailed descriptions we maintain. And during the production process, if there is any scrap generated, if there is waste generated, that data should be maintained. At the same time, the manufacturer, if that goods, finished goods output, if he distributed as a free of cost, or a trader or a service provider, suppose if they supplied that goods freely to their beloved friends, or during the production process there is a wastage, loss occurred during the production process, there is a abnormal loss, goods has been destroyed, in that case all these detailed records should be maintained in the name of stock of goods, and followed by details of tax. What do you mean by details of tax? You know, my dear friends, when you purchase the goods, 5% tax, 12% tax, 18% GST, 28% GST, detailed breakup of the goods, raw material 1, raw material 2, raw material 3, or component 1, component 2, component 3. That detail should be maintained in detailed manner, and the tax paid thereon should be clearly indicate. And if the goods has been destroyed, on that goods input tax credit not allowed, because the blocker credit or the finished goods which you are going to be distributed freely, in that case there won't be any GST because blocker credit. Then you have to maintain the details of the stock and what stock you have been purchased, how much you produce, how much is the closing balance, how much the GST paid thereon. The details should be maintained. Further, my dear sir, referring to you, further more points here. See, a composition taxpayer. See, here I will say composition taxpayer. Who is he? Whose aggregate turnover not exceed 1.5 crore, or a person who is belongs to few states not exceed 75 lakhs. In the case of a service provider, as an restaurant fellow, all India over basis not exceeding 50 lakhs. You remember that? Such a composition taxpayer, the taxpayer who opted the composition scheme because he is eligible to avail the particular benefit of composition scheme. In that case, my dear sir, in the given case, such a composition taxpayer not required to maintain stock of goods details. So happy. Not required to maintain details of the stock. Why not required to maintain? Because for him no input tax credit. For him liable to pay GST on output supply of turnover only. For a manufacturer, for a trader, are you aware of that? For a manufacturer liable to pay GST on output supply of goods, 0.5% CGST, 0.5% GST, and the total turnover, taxable as well as exempted. For a trader, liable to pay 0.5% CGST, 0.5% GST on the taxable goods only. Then restaurant fellow, 2.5%, 2.5% CGST, GST on the total value of the supply, taxable as well as exempted. For a service provider other than restaurant, what rate, my dear? 3%. There you are. 3% CGST, 3% SGST liable to pay on the total value of supply, namely taxable as well as exempted supply. Got it? Just a quick recapitulation of that at accounts and records chapter. So, a composition taxpayer not required to maintain what? A stock of goods, free from maintaining records. Not required to maintain details of the stock, because details of the stock tax paid not required to maintain, because whatever tax he paid and purchased the goods form part of the cost, not required to avail the ITC, not eligible to avail the ITC, therefore not required to maintain what? Details of the stock as well as the details of the tax paid thereon. Is clear? He is free from these two documents. Very important. Stock details not required to maintain, details of the tax not required to maintain. Very big relief, no? Further, my dear friends, if you refer here a particular, let us say, agent. If I want to act as an agent for you, you are my principal. How can I act as agent? Unless you authorize me, so and so is my agent. He can act on behalf of me to supply the goods, to supply the services. Yes or no? Therefore, first and foremost, record being agent, I should obtain from my principal is what? Authorization letter from the principal. Further, particulars of the goods or services, quantity, value, along with the description on behalf of the principal. I should maintain separate records principal wise. I am agent for principal A, I am agent for principal B, I am agent for principal C. So principal wise I have to maintain what? Particulars of the goods what I received, or particular of services what I supplied on behalf of my particular principal. Quantity in case of supply of goods, value in case of supply of goods or services what have been supplied on behalf of my principal, I should maintain it. Details of the accounts furnished to every principal. At the end of the day, I should give the report to my principal. Sir, I received the goods from you so much. I supply the goods so much, balance so much. I pay the tax so much. Such details should be maintained principal wise and informed to principal. In that case, you have to, being agent, maintain separately principal wise these records. Tax paid details on behalf of the principal should maintain principal wise. So additional records to be maintained by the agent we come across. Further, additional records to be maintained by the manufacturer. Monthly production records showing quantity details, raw materials purchased, service received for production purpose in the manufacture and output of the finished goods, along with the waste, anything generated or any byproduct generated. Very important, stock of goods should be also maintained. Not only the wastage generated during production process, in addition to the purchases, opening balance and closing balances, but also be maintain the stock of goods under that byproduct records. In addition to the wastage or scrap, in addition to the goods has been lost, stolen or destroyed, in addition to the goods purchased, in addition to opening balance. So a manufacturer should maintain the records. Further, my dear friends, a service provider, as a service provider, should maintain the additional records. See, all this agent or the manufacturer, service provider, I am telling additional records. It is in addition to the main records, production, manufacture records, the purchase and output of goods, purchase, inward and outward supplies, stock of goods records, input tax availed records. I told no, in addition to that, the additional records. Being a service provider should maintain additional records. What are they? Quantitative details of the goods used in the production of services, details of input services are used and output services are supplied. So what inward supplies of goods which is consumed to provide the output supply of services should be clearly maintain the records for the consumables by a service provider. Further, my dear friends, additional records to be maintained by the works contractor. Additional records to be maintained by the works contractor. What records should be maintained by him? Name and address of the client, description, value and quantity of the goods, services received for the works contract services and utilized in the execution of the works contract, the details of payment received in respect of each contract, and the name, addresses of suppliers from whom services or goods received by the works contractor for execution of his output supply of services. Because as you are aware of that, works contract service means what? The service which goes hand in hand, goods and services in relation to construction of an immovable property is called works contract. In that case, the works contract services is not a input tax credit for the recipient if it is in relation to an immovable property, unless it is a plant and machinery, as you are aware of that. So in that case, the works contractor providing services by getting subcontracting from somebody else, works contractor can avail the ATC. Yes, a works contractor while paying the GST, he can avail the subcontractor works contract input services as input tax credit. That is all we understood under the input tax credit chapter. Am I right? Further, my dear friends, now please come back. The accounts and records should be maintained by works contractor is the same way. The way, what are they I mentioned here? Name and address of the clients to whom you provide the works contract services, description of the goods, value of the goods, quantity of the goods are service received by him to provide output supply of works contract services, the details of the payment of the receipt of the amount from each contractor, from each respect of a contractee, the contractor received how much values, thereafter the name, addresses from whom he received the goods or services to provide the output supply of works contract. That detail should be maintained in detailed manner under the name of accounts and records, being a works contractor, a registered person. Am I right? Further, my dear friends, additional records to be maintained by the custodian. Additional record should be maintained by the clearing and forwarding agent. Who is a custodian? Sometimes before I said, sir, I purchased 10,000 laptops, 10,000 pieces of cell phones, I kept in a warehouse. The warehouse keeper is a custodian of that goods. As simple as this. You got the clarity. In the case if I import the goods are kept at the docks. Who is a custodian? The Port Trust Authority of India is a custodian, because who safeguarding the goods is a custodian. Then who is the clearing forwarding agent? Clearing and forwarding agent is the person who receives the goods on behalf of the others and store the goods in his premises, and he is going to be distribute the goods to those buyers whose names has been instructed by the seller of that goods, owner of the goods. For example, my dear, I am Mr. Chari. I am a clearing and forwarding agent. You are the owner of the goods. You are the Apple company, Apple Incorporation. You have been stored your goods in my premises, namely iPhone 16, 10,000 pieces you kept in my premises. So I am a custodian of that goods. You are the owner of the goods. Your name is Apple Incorporation. And my name is Chari, is the clearing forwarding agent. You being a owner of the iPhones, you instruct me, hey Mr. Chari, you send out of 10,000 pieces of the cell phones, iPhone 16, 2,000 pieces to Mumbai dealer, 3,000 pieces to Chennai dealer. I sent on the instruction of the owner of the goods. The balance stock is how much is available? 5,000 units of iPhone 16. Then I have to report to you, sir, as you told me, I sent 2,000 pieces of iPhone 16 to Mumbai dealer and 3,000 pieces of iPhone 16 I given to Chennai dealer as per instruction. I received from you already 10,000. I distribute 2 plus 3, 5,000. Balance how much is there with me? 5,000. End of the day, I am reporting you. So such a person is called as a clearing and forwarding agent, who not only store the goods but also deliver the goods on behalf of the owner of the goods, and he maintain the stock of that goods and reporting from time to time to the owner of the goods is the person is called as a clearing and forwarding agent. Got the clarity? Such a clearing and forwarding agent, such a custodian should maintain the records, accounts and records. Any person having custody over the goods in the capacity of carrier or a clearing and forwarding agent for delivery or dispatch of thereof to a recipient on behalf of any registered person shall maintain true and correct records in respect of such goods handled by him on behalf of such a registered person, and shall produce the details thereof as and when required by the proper officer. Such a records, hey Mr. Clearing and Forwarding Agent, you not only reporting to your owner of that goods but also should report wherever required by the department officer. You should be produce them, you should be handed over the records to them, what you maintain as a clearing and forwarding agent. Further, my dear friends, additional records to be maintained by the owner of the goods, the owner of the warehouse, who are proprietor of a warehouse, go down and transport, or the particular in charge of that goods. That means owner or operator of a go down or a warehouse and transporter should maintain the records of the particular goods they handling. That means to say that I am the warehouse in charge, my dear. My name is Bhuvana. I am Mr. Bhuvana. I am maintaining warehouse a particular place where I can store the various companies' products. Sony company product, the Reliance company products, Tata company products, the Panasonic company products. Like that, different company products I can be stored in my place, because I have almost 10 acres of a godown, very big godown. I am the Bhuvana. I'm maintaining. I'm the owner of the warehouse, maintaining the stock of the various other company as in charge of the warehouse. In that case, such in charge of the warehouse may be a registered person, may be a registered person, should maintain the accounts and records of that particular company goods. For example, I have received the Tata company salt, for example, in one place I kept. storage. Thereafter, I received the cell phone from the Samsung company. I kept in one place. Thereafter, I received the products of a particular LG company. LG company washing machines in one side I kept. So, as a in charge of the warehouse, as a owner of the warehouse or a go down in charge, I should maintain the stock what is inflow taken place, and I should also keep separately that particular goods in separate identifiable locations and identifiable manner. Anytime the owner of the goods comes, or anytime the proper officer from GST department comes into my warehouse, if asking the details, hey Mr. LG company, how many washing machines you supplied on so and so date to so and so date, please give the details, means I should be in charge of the warehouse, owner of the warehouse. I should maintain the records of the particular warehouse, particular company goods which I received and I kept in my premises, which I distributed and balance are available. So these all the records should be maintained. Each company wise I have to maintain. As a owner of the warehouse whose company's goods I am maintaining in my warehouse, I should have proper records for that. The record balance, the book balance should exactly match with the balance lying on the floor. If tomorrow department comes, I have to show. So in that case, such a person may be a registered person, may be a unregistered person. Who? The owner of the warehouse, the owner of the godown, may be registered, may be unregistered, should maintain the records. If the owner of the warehouse is the unregistered person, in that case, hey Mr., you have to obtain unique enrollment number in the form GST ENR01. You have to give your information, authenticate in the department of GST, not required registration. If the turnover not exceeded, the enrollment, but you should be authenticate your name, and you have to obtain the unique enrollment number. You being a transporter also can obtain unique enrollment number in the form GST ENR01. If the person obtained an unique enrollment number, it is sufficient. No need to use his GST registration number if you already registered. Got the clarity, my dear friends? That means you have multiple registrations, then obtain unique enrollment number sufficient. That can be used. Being a transporter, unique enrollment number you can use all over India, not required to use your multiple registrations. So simplification of the process. Got the clarity, my dear friends? Further, the accounts and records should be maintained by the transporter. Of course, transporter also should maintain the records of the goods which he transported, delivered, and goods stored in transit by him, along with the GST IN of the registered persons, namely consignor, consignee, both of them, as the case may be. Further, additional records to be maintained by the owner or operator of the warehouse or go down in charge and transporter. Further, every owner or operator of a warehouse or a go down shall maintain the books of accounts with respect to the period for which particular goods remains within the warehouse, including the particulars relating to such dispatch, movement, receipt, and disposal of such goods. Detailed records should be maintained. See, if the goods comes to warehouse, GRN, goods receipt note, then made an entry in the book, separate goods receipt registered. Thereafter, you are delivering that goods, dispatching from the warehouse. In that case, the delivery challan should be maintained, and that goods should be reduced from the available stock. The balance closing stock should be maintained in the warehouse. So such a record should be maintained. Operator of go down shall store the goods in such manner, as I told you, they can be identified item wise and owner wise, and shall facilitate any physical verification in respect or inspection by the proper officer on demand. As I told you, separate location identifiable manner kept in the warehouse for each company goods. Each registered person goods separately kept, properly should be available. Anytime department officer come for verification, easily can able to identify the goods number of count and match with the books of accounts. Further, my dear friends, How I can maintain the accounts and records? Is it required to maintain manually? Not required to maintain manually. If you maintain manually, well and good. You can also maintain electronically also. If you maintain manually, on account of department officer demands, you have to give the books of accounts manually. You have to submit what you prepared. If you maintain electronically, where the signature is a digital signature is there, in that case you should be made available the electronic records to the proper officer on demand, along with the user ID and password to log in and view the details of the accounts and records. Further, what is important here is no entry to be erased in the accounts and records, no entry to be overwritten, no entry to be overwritten. That is very important. No entry to be erased, no entry to be overwritten. That is the main concept. That can be maintained, the records manually or electronically, no problem. Further, my dear friends, what are the consequences of failure to maintain the accounts and records? Obviously, proper officer, if noticed during the audit and all, you not maintain the proper records, you not maintain the proper accounts were required to maintain, the department will be arrive the liability and demand you to pay the tax, interest penalties, huge loss. Therefore, you must maintain the accounts and records. If you feel difficulty to maintain the accounts and records, no problem, Mr. Taxpayer. We are here being a chartered accountants, cost accountants, they are helping to you people to maintain the books of accounts. Is clear? Further, my dear friends, referring further more points, referring here from here. Very important. How long I can maintain the books of accounts? The period of retention of accounts. Period of retention of accounts, section 36 of the CGST. The law of the land here says, as per the CGST Act, 72 months from the due date of filing the annual return, compare with 1 year after final order in case of appeal or investigation, among the two, whichever is later, up to that I should maintain the books of accounts. 72 months means what? 6 years. From the count start from the reckon from the due date of filing the annual return. For example, year 24-25, filing the annual return GSTR 9 for the financial year 24-25 is 31st December 2025. The count reckon 6 years from 1st January 2026 onwards. So 72 months from the due date of filing the annual return, or 1 year from the date of passing the final order. Among the two, whichever is later, till the time for the given financial year, accounts and records should be maintained. You don't worry, I am going to bring to notice one example, classical example. Just look and understand lollipop manner is as follows. X Limited financial year, you see, X Limited financial year 24-25. Annual return due date for the financial 2025, 31st December 2025. Period of retention of the books of accounts, should read in the books of accounts. How long means? For the financial year 2025 up to 31st December 2031. 72 months. Up to the date, up to 31st December 2031, you have to maintain. Suppose if the books of the financial year 2025, there is any dispute which has been arose and there is an investigation by department for the financial 24-25 for a taxpayer, or the matter went for appeal, in that cases, from the date of passing the order, from the date of finalization of the investigation, for a period of 1 year should maintain, whichever may be later among the two. The due date of the annual return, from the date 72 months, or 1 year from the date of passing the order, whichever is later. One more example I will bring to you to have clarity. Now look here, referring to you, my dear friends, if you refer here, X Limited tax dispute relating to January 2025, which is financial year 24-25 financial year, filed an appeal on 1st February 2025. 1st February 2025. And the court passed a final order on 30th November 2030. Find the period of retention of accounts for X Limited for the financial year 24-25. You can able to easily identify now. Easily identify, my dear friends. What is this? Simple. What is there here? X Limited tax dispute relating to financial 24-25. Due date of filing the return is the annual return is for the year 31st December 2025. Count 72 months commence from 1st of December, 1st of January 2026 onwards for 72 months. That means up to 31st December 2031. The date or 1 year from the date of passing the order. Order when passed? 30th November 2030. So from 1st of December 2030 to 30th November 2031. Among the two, whichever is later. Among two, whichever is later. Which is later? 31st December 2031. So up to that, you have to maintain the accounts and records. Got the clarity, my dear friends? Accounts, you are aware of that. Sales register, purchase register, tax details, stock of goods. Accounts. Records means records nothing but tax invoice, the debit note, credit note, bill of what we can call it, supply, bill of supply, delivery challan, e-way bills, and so on and so forth. Got the clarity? So accounts and records should be maintained for a period of 72 months from the due date of filing the annual return for the given financial year, or for a period of 1 year from date of passing the order by the relevant authority, among whichever is later. Till that time, you have to maintain the books of accounts. Thereafter, these books of accounts has no validity generally. Got the clarity, my dear friends? So, see you in next class with a new topic. In the meantime, I recommend you, I will always prefer, please like, give comment and share it. Okay, my dear friends? Thank you. See you in the next class. Thank you.